Shut your eyes for a second and picture this. A breeze, super gentle, whispering through a bunch of trees. Hear that? Way, way off in the distance, it's a bird calling out. And the leaves, they're not just rustling. They're like whispering secrets. Old secrets. Secrets about stuff that is ancient. Stuff kinda forgotten. Tonight, we're heading way down south to the jungles of Mexico. To Chiapas, specifically. Now, before all this modern stuff, before our time, there was a city here. And this city, oh man, it was gorgeous. It was full of smart people and cool mysteries. Centuries have gone by, but we are still trying to figure this place out. It was called Palenque. These days, Palenque lies mostly buried under a ton of thick jungle. I mean, we are talking overgrown. But get this, back in the day, it was a huge deal. It was one of the most important cities for the ancient Maya people. Big time. Kings lived there. Smart astronomers studied the stars. They had temples and did rituals, all that cool stuff. And now, silence. So what happened to Palenque? Why did everyone just up and leave? What secrets are still buried down there under all those trees? Let's go back, way back, over 1,300 years. Back when the jungle wasn't just about nature. It was full of people, full of life. Can you imagine waking up in Palenque? The city would shine. All those limestone buildings reflecting the sun, making everything glow white. You'd see smoke rising from cooking fires, and the priests would be chanting. Bright, colorful robes. They'd be praying to the gods for rain, sun, and time itself. Palenque was more than just a city. It was like a brain center. Astronomy, mathematics, religion, they were all huge there. The Mayan people could track the stars super accurately. I mean, scientists today are still blown away. They could even predict eclipses. And get this, they built their pyramids to line up with the stars. Now, let me tell you about one of the big guys in Palenque, King Pakal the Great. This dude was awesome. He became king when he was only 12, and he ruled for almost 70 years. Can you imagine that? During his time, the city really took off. It did so well, he built temples that you can still see today, including the Temple of the Inscription. This pyramid is huge, and it's where they found his tomb. But things started to change as Palenque got bigger and bigger. Around the 800s, things started going downhill in the city. People started moving away. They stopped building new stuff. The jungle started creeping back in. And then, total silence. Historians still argue about why the Maya left. Some say it was because of a bad drought, like they didn't have enough water. Other people think it was wars or sickness. The truth is, we just don't know for sure. They just disappeared. They left their buildings, their artwork, all their knowledge. Palenque was asleep under all those vines and roots for over 1,000 years. Nature took back what it owned before. The temples cracked, and the stone carvings started to fade away. You couldn't hear the Maya voices anymore, just the sounds of the jungle. Then, in the 1800s, some explorers from Europe stumbled on the ruins of the city. Can you imagine what they thought? These massive stone temples, strange symbols carved in them, statues of gods and kings. The jungle did a great job hiding Palenque, but it couldn't hide it forever. One of those explorers, John Lloyd Stevens, wrote in his diary about how he felt walking around the empty city. He said he was in wonder, but also felt super sad, like he was walking through a dream that ended a long time ago. We have gotten to see some of Palenque today, but there is still so much of it buried. People who study this stuff think that maybe 90% of the city is still under the ground. And the stuff we have found makes us ask questions. How did the Maya carve stone without any metal tools? How did they move those giant blocks through the jungle? How did they know so much about the stars? Some people think the Maya had help. Or maybe they knew something from an even older civilization. Others talk about myths, gods who lived with people and taught them to read the stars. Of course, those are just ideas. But they remind us that not knowing everything is part of what makes it cool. Try closing your eyes again and pretend you're walking through Palenque. The air feels still. The jungle is thick and overgrown. You have to watch your step as you walk over roots and stones, past faces carved in stone that are now half hidden by moss. You feel like you're close to the past. You could almost touch it. Did you hear that? Was it a bird or something else? When night comes, the ruins feel different. The shadows stretch out across the stone, and you can almost feel the forest breathing. Almost hear voices, the echoes of the people who lived there once upon a time. And that's just the start. Palenque is just one of the cities that have disappeared. Cities that used to be full of life and then vanished. Makes you wonder why civilizations rise and fall. Why do people build things only to leave them behind? Next time, we're heading north to the deserts of the American Southwest. Up in the cliffs of Colorado, another city is waiting, built into the stone, left in silence. It's the mystery of Mesa Verde. For now, get some sleep. Let the jungle sounds drift you off. Dream about cities that once were, and maybe will be again one day. Way up high in the dry canyons and plateaus of Colorado, you'll see these old stone houses clinging to the cliffs. It's like they're frozen memories. You can almost feel the past just looking at them. When the sun goes down, it's amazing. Shadows stretch across the red rocks and golden sand. A little breeze whispers through the trees and canyons, carrying old stories that have been forgotten for a long time. This place is called Mesa Verde, which means green table in Spanish. But it's way more than just green. Hidden in the cliffs are the remains of a whole world, a city that used to be full of life, but is silent now. Imagine standing on the edge of a canyon, looking out at this huge landscape. Below you, carved right into the rock, are houses. Some are small. Others are like towers with many floors. People built them all by hand, with so much care and a real reason for building them a certain way. You can almost feel their intention. The ancestral Puebloans, also known as the Anasazi in old times, built these homes. They lived in these cliffs for ages, high above the valley, surrounded by nature, the sky, and stone. They were farmers, growing corn, beans, and squash. They hunted animals. They also crafted things like pottery and wove cloth. In the middle of their villages, they had kivas, which were round underground rooms where they held ceremonies, told stories, and stayed warm and got advice. Life there wasn't a walk in the park. The land is dry and the winters are super cold. But the people of Mesa Verde managed to thrive for generations. They figured out how to live with the environment, using stone, wood, and clay to build. Their homes were strong, and their community was even stronger. They depended on each other. But then, around the late 1200s, something started to change. Things were not going so well. By 1300, Mesa Verde was deserted. The homes that used to be full of light and people were empty. The fires went out. They left behind their tools and everything. The people just disappeared. Why did they go? That is the big question to be asked. Historians are still trying to figure it out. Some guess it was because of drought, like years with no rain. So the crops failed and there was no water. Others think that war with other groups or changes in what they believed may have played a role. Maybe it was more complicated than just one thing. Maybe it was a bunch of little problems that added up until the people decided they had to leave. The interesting thing is that they left so carefully. They didn't wreck the cliff houses, they left them in good shape. The kivas were sealed up. People carefully placed sacred objects inside. It wasn't like they were running away. It was like they were saying goodbye. That's probably why Mesa Verde feels so special now. When you walk through the ruins, it's so quiet it almost feels holy. You can see fingerprints in the clay walls, plus smoke stains on the ceilings where they had fires. It's like the people just stepped out for a minute, but never came back. Modern Pueblo tribes like the Hopi and Zuni still tell stories about Mesa Verde. They don't see it as a lost city. Instead, this place for them is like the place of their ancestors, their spirit, where they came from. They talk about moving from place to place, following signs in nature, and moving on, not because they were scared, but because it was simply time. Maybe the people of Mesa Verde didn't just disappear. Maybe they just followed the path that was meant for them into the future. In the 1800s, cowboys and settlers just stumbled across these ruins. They were shocked because how could you even live in these cliffs? But the real question was not that, but how could they have left? Since then, smart people called archaeologists have been studying Mesa Verde very closely. They've found houses, tools, pottery, and even sandals that are worn out from being used for years. They've also learned the people were connected. The way the houses were set up, the shared spaces, the kivas, show that these people lived well with each other and respected the land. They didn't just struggle in daily life. They built something beautiful that lasted for ages. Their voices are gone, but you can still feel their presence in every stone, every carving, every silent room. When night comes, the stars start to pop out, one after another, until there are thousands. The ancestral Puebloans looked at those same stars. Mesa Verde is not just a place. It reminds us that even the strongest houses can be left behind, and that even the toughest people sometimes have to move on. But our story does not end here. Next, we're going to the middle of America, to the Mississippi River. Underneath fields and highways, the remains of a city bigger than London waited for us. Cahokia is America's lost metropolis, but for now, let the quietness of the cliffs calm you. Let the desert wind put you to sleep. And always remember that some of the biggest mysteries are the ones with no answer. All right, let's talk about a place you might not expect. An ancient city in the Midwest. Think about it. The American Midwest. Miles and miles of flat land, big skies, and farmland as far as you can see. Now it's peaceful and quiet, but way back, hundreds of years ago, it was a huge city, even bigger than London back then. It was full of people, temples, important ceremonies, and just everyday life. This place is called Cahokia. It was right by the Mississippi River, across from where St. Louis, Missouri is now. But way before any tall buildings or roads, this area had mounds, giant dirt structures made carefully by hand, one basket of dirt at a time. The biggest one, called Monk's Mound, is still there. It's huge, over 100 feet tall, and the bottom is wider than the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you stand on top, you can see for miles. Imagine a leader standing there looking out over a busy city. Around 1100 AD, Cahokia probably had about 40,000 people living there. That's more than any city in what we now call the United States, until Philadelphia in the 1700s. People lived in wood houses, set up in neighborhoods. There were markets, places to build things, temples, and gathering spots. The city was full of sounds, colors, and energy. Cahokia was also a major religious spot. The people built a wood henge, a circle of wooden posts lined up with where the sun moves, kind of like Stonehenge in England. They watched the sky, kept track of the seasons, and lived in tune with nature. Trade routes connected Cahokia to faraway places. Seashells from the Gulf Coast, copper from the Great Lakes, obsidian from the Rockies. They all ended up here. This was a powerful and central location. Then, it was gone. The city was empty by the 1300s. There wasn't a big war or any sign of a disaster. People just slowly left, and the city disappeared into the ground and into history. Why did they leave? Some say the river flooded too much. Others think the soil couldn't feed that many people for long. Some guess there was trouble among the people, or maybe they thought it was time to move on for spiritual reasons. Like Mesa Verde, Cahokia wasn't destroyed. It was just left behind. The mounds stayed there, silent, as trees and fields covered them. People came along later, not knowing they were standing on what was left of a lost city. In the 1800s, some monks built a small place on top of the biggest mound, which is why it's called Monk's Mound. But they didn't know what was underneath. Now, people who study old things have dug up some stuff: tools, pottery, carvings, and bones. They found signs of big feasts, ceremonies, and burials. There's even a strange tomb with a lot of people who were killed as sacrifices, but we don't know why. Still, we don't know much about the people of Cahokia. We don't even know what they called themselves. No one has ever found any writing from them. Their language, what they believed, and their names are all gone. But the earth remembers. The mounds are still there, quiet, watching. Sometimes when the light is just right in the morning, you can almost feel the city moving under your feet. Cahokia makes you think differently about American history. It shows that a long time ago, before anyone came from Europe, there were cities here, big, complex, and lively. This was one of the first cities in America, but most people haven't even heard of it. Imagine you're standing at the edge of Monk's Mound, way back when. Smoke is rising from cooking fires. Kids are running around the gathering place. Religious leaders are singing in the temples. The river is shining in the sun, and far away you can hear drums, a sound that's been lost in time. Cahokia was a city full of ideas, connections, and mystery. And maybe, like some other places we've talked about, it just knew when it was time to end. Next time, we'll go underwater to check out some ruins, places where cities might have sunk or maybe never even existed. The mystery of Yonaguni, the Atlantis of Japan, is waiting. But for now, just relax and think about the river. Let the earth hold you. And remember, sometimes what's buried isn't gone. It's just waiting to be remembered. Picture yourself gently floating in crystal clear blue water. Above, the surface shimmers, with sunlight creating dancing patterns. Below, shadows playfully move about. Suddenly, a huge form starts to appear. Gigantic stone terraces rise up from the seabed. There are broad platforms, sharp corners, and something that resembles a staircase going down into the darkness. You're close to Yonaguni, a small island on the edge of Japan's southernmost islands. What's under you might be one of the most puzzling places on the planet. Back in 1986, a local diver exploring the ocean floor near Yonaguni came across something that has kept people talking for decades. He discovered what looked like an old city, sitting more than 100 feet below the surface. The formation stretches out for hundreds of feet with flat areas, straight edges, and tall stone structures. Some of these seem to line up with the directions north, south, east, and west. He had stumbled upon what we now call the Yonaguni Monument. When you first see it, you might think it's impossible for nature to make shapes like these. Some parts look like staircases, while others resemble walls or open areas. There's even a huge structure that some people call a pyramid. Divers who have been there describe it as swimming through a sunken temple. They see columns rising from the seafloor and passageways that don't lead anywhere. It's as if a city was frozen in time. But is it actually real? Scientists don't agree. Some say it's natural sandstone that is broken apart over thousands of years because of earthquakes and the movement of the tides. Others argue that the shapes are too perfect and too planned to be natural. Some think that certain marks on the rocks are carvings, like symbols cut into the stone. There's also a formation called the Turtle, which looks like an animal carving. And nearby, some people believe they see a road. Could all this have been made by people long ago? If so, who built it? And when? If Yonaguni was once above sea level, then it has to be at least 10,000 years old, from the end of the last ice age. That's when the oceans rose and flooded coastlines all over the world. That would make Yonaguni older than the pyramids in Egypt, older than Stonehenge, and older than any civilization we know about. History books tell us that people back then were just simple hunter-gatherers. But if Yonaguni was built by people, it means they could build structures, do engineering, and maybe even write. That would change everything we thought we knew about the past. All around the world, there are old stories of cities that have sunk into the sea. The Greeks talked about Atlantis, an island that disappeared under the waves in a single day. Hindu stories describe Dwarka, a golden city that the ocean swallowed. Native American tales tell of floods that covered entire lands. Even the Bible has the story of Noah's Ark, which suggests a big flood that people from every part of the earth remembered. Could Yonaguni be a piece of that forgotten history? Some researchers think there might be other ruins nearby, structures off the coast of India, in the Mediterranean Sea, and even near Cuba, all underwater. Maybe Yonaguni is not the only one. Maybe there are entire parts of human history hidden under the sea. And if so, what happened to those civilizations? Did a huge flood wipe them out? Or did they just fall apart, like Palenque, Mesa Verde, and Cahokia, victims of time, change, and the Earth's changing conditions? As you float above Yonaguni, you can almost feel the weight of time. The ocean is quiet. Fish swim through silent corridors. Coral grows on old stones. Here in the deep, there are no clear answers, just silence. Many people who visit Yonaguni say it feels alive, like the stones remember something. They say it's more than just rock. It's a message from the past, waiting for us to listen. And maybe, just maybe, someday, we will learn the truth. For now, Yonaguni is still a mystery, part science, part story. But whether it was made by nature or by people, it tells us something important. What we think we know is often just a small piece of what used to be. There might be more lost cities and more forgotten civilizations waiting under the oceans, deserts, and jungles. As night comes, let the waves gently rock you. Let the quiet of the sea lead you to sleep. Yonaguni is still there, below the surface, watching, waiting, and dreaming. Okay, picture this. Absolute silence. Not just the normal quiet you get at night in your room. Nah, I'm talking about the kind of silence that builds up over hundreds of years. The type that settles over old stone buildings, empty streets, and houses no one remembers. The silence of once busy cities, now sleeping under dirt, hidden in jungles or sunk in the sea. Tonight, our adventure ends, not by finding a new lost city, but by figuring out something important. These old, quiet cities, they're trying to tell us something. It's not about dying or failing. It's bigger than that. It's something we tend to forget. Nothing lasts forever. And guess what? It's perfectly fine. Over the years, civilizations popped up, shining with ideas, creativity, and big plans. People got together, built temples, set up markets, and made homes. They traded stuff, laughed, prayed, and daydreamed. Then, bit by bit, or maybe all at once, they were gone. Think about Palenque, Mesa Verde, Cahokia, and Yonaguni. Each one went away in its own way, swallowed by the jungle, dried up by drought, buried by earth, or taken by the ocean. But were they really lost? Not really. They're still around, not just as ruins, but in our memories, in stories, and in that way, they're still kicking. Let's think about this more. Palenque, with the jungle all over it, shows us that nature always wins in the end. Life finds its way through cracks in the stone. Roots take back what people built. Mesa Verde, carved into the sides of cliffs, reminds us that people are tough. They figured out how to live with a hard landscape. And when it was time to go, they didn't run off scared. They left carefully, closing up their holy places and taking their stories with them. Cahokia, once the biggest city in America, is now under quiet fields. It tells us that even if you're not remembered, you still leave a mark on the land, in the dirt, and on the people who come later. And Yonaguni, hiding under the waves, is a mystery. There's still so much we don't know, and maybe won't ever know. But that's okay. Mystery makes us imagine, wonder, and stay curious. All these cities tell us one thing. We weren't the first ones here. We weren't the first to build stuff, to have big dreams, or to lose it all. And we're not the first to ask, what will people remember about us? Now we live in crazy tall buildings, go super fast from place to place, and talk to people all over the world instantly. Feels like we've got time, nature, and distance all figured out. But time doesn't care. Someday our buildings will fall apart too. Our cities will change. The roads will crack. Screens will go dark. Life will keep moving. And maybe, way in the future, someone will walk through our old buildings and wonder, who are these people? What did they care about? What was important to them? Lost cities don't just teach us about the past. They're like a mirror to what's happening now. They make us think, what are we building? What will stick around after we're gone? Not just stone stuff, but what it all means. Not just big buildings, but the memories we make. Will people remember us for what we took, or what we gave, for how we changed the world, or how we paid attention to it? Here's a secret. Nothing's really gone if people still remember it. Palenque lives on in the hearts of everyone who explores. Mesa Verde is alive in the prayers of the Pueblo people today. Cahokia is there in the stories of those who feel the spirit of the land. Yonaguni is in the dreams of anyone who believes in old wonders. And now, you're part of that story. By listening, wondering, and dreaming, you keep those stories going. Somewhere out there, beyond what we can see, more cities are sleeping. Hidden under forests, deserts, mountains, and oceans, waiting and watching. We might not find them all, and that's okay. Every city, every group of people leaves something behind. If we listen closely, we can hear it. In the sound of leaves moving through old temples, in the wind blowing through empty canyons, in the sound of waves over old stones. Okay, take a breath. Let it out. slow. Let the weight of all those years settle in your mind. You're part of something huge. A story about not just loss, but what we leave behind. When it's all said and done, it's not the stone stuff that matters. It's how we live, how nice we were, what amazed us, the stories we shared. As you go to sleep tonight, remember, you're walking on the same ground as the people who built Palenque, Mesa Verde, Cahokia, and Yonaguni. Seeing the same stars, you're having the same kinds of dreams. And someday, someone might wonder about you. And as long as they're wondering, you'll never really be gone. Good night. Sleep well and dream about the cities that time forgot, but that memories keep alive.